Good afternoon, Kate. How are you?
I'm good, Jason. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Yes, thanks for being here, Kate. I'm really glad we're making this happen. Kate is, for the audience, Kate is an interesting person for me because we met through Lunch Club, which I've talked about on the podcast before. There's a few guests I've had on for the Lunch Club. We had a really fun meeting and I'm like, hey, would you want to be on my podcast? And I think you're all going to understand why shortly. Not only are you a wonderful human being, but like you're doing some really fucking cool stuff. So I'm like, I want to talk to you about this on a podcast where the audience can hear about it. And so Kate and I, we kind of know each other, but not really. So this is going to be a conversation we're both going to learn a lot about each other throughout this. So Kate, thanks so much for being on today. And love if you'd introduce yourself to the audience, where you are in the world, and just a little bit about yourself to kick us off.
Yeah. Hi. Well, thank you for that intro. I'm excited to be an interesting person. I'm grateful to be here. My personal story, I grew up in Connecticut, went to college in Connecticut, and moved to New York City. I've basically lived in a 45-mile bubble my entire life until COVID hit. And at the time I was working for the Tribeca Film Festival. I was director of partnerships for them and focusing on experiential. And with the festival not happening and clients not coming in, my job was eliminated, which put me in a position of, I was okay for a while. I got a nice little severance, but, I left the city in April thinking I'd be back in June and, we'd be back to business. That's not happened. I actually gave my apartment to a nurse. It was a friend of a friend. She lived there. And then in June, when it became painfully clear that the city was just not what it was, I'd made the tough decision to give up my apartment, without a next step identified. So I have been a nomad for the last year. I've lived in some cool places, everywhere from Cape Cod to Montauk to Raleigh, staying with friends, staying with family. I'm back on the Cape now. My father actually has Alzheimer's, so I'm here helping out and having this time spending with him, or to spend with him, has been just such a gift. And I look at it that way. And coincidentally, or just miraculously, one of my old clients from Tribeca saw that I was available. He is he's producing a film about Lilly Ledbetter. And for those who don't know who Lilly Ledbetter is, she is the namesake of the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Restoration Act, which was the first piece of legislation Obama signed into law. Her course against Goodyear was a gargantuan task. She found out that she was being paid 40% less than the men, over a 20-year tenure there, and she decided to take this to court. And ultimately, she went to the Supreme Court, where, due to a technicality in the law, she lost her case. And RBG came in hot, and actually one of her most important dissents and prominent dissents was on the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. And she inspired and encouraged Lilly to keep going. And she put it on Congress to change the law. And Obama saw that this was a law that needed to be changed. And so he made that happen. And
Beautiful.
We, as women and marginalized individuals, owe her a debt of gratitude. So her story is coming to the big screen. Hopefully, we might be streaming. We're still in the process of pre-production. But if you want to learn more about the film, we can tell you about that at the end. But my executive producer, David, who had been working in experiential at George P. Johnson for over 20 years, said, if we're going to tell this story, if we're going to disrupt and shake up culture like Hidden Figures did, and Aaron Brockovich and Philadelphia and Spotlight and Norma Ray and so many incredible films that have the ability to affect the conversation, why not meet it with a proactive social impact campaign? And I am senior vice president of the Impact Campaign, and I am working very closely with a group of incredible people to bring together for-profits, nonprofits, and individuals to say enough is enough in regard to women and fair pay. So that's my little story in a little bit, but that's where I stand now. I'm
Yeah.
still technically homeless, but
Homeless in Cape Cod, not a terrible
homeless in
place to be
Cape Cod.
homeless.
Yeah, I miss my own things. That's my
Yes,
whole
of
thing.
course.
But
Of course.
I've definitely, it's been a very interesting year, and I think everybody has had an interesting year. But I feel like I will be a COVID success story in some regard. But it obviously was awful for a lot of people. And I understand that. And I don't want to take away from that. But this forced pause, this forced kind of, shock to the system, I mean, has been, I think I'll look back on it and be great. Well, I'm grateful as it is now, but look back on it and say, okay, that was necessary.
Well, I'm laughing, Kate, because you think we're going to wait till the end of the episode to talk more about the film. You're sadly mistaken. I'm sorry to tell you that. Because it's my show, and I'm going to I'm going to ask you about it before the end of the episode.
It's cool.
So just preparing you for that.
I know. I mean, but it's cool. It's cool to be working on a film. I never thought, obviously working at Tribeca, you're immersed in film, and you get such a solid look at like the process and meet the creators and all of the things that go into putting the festival on. But never in a million years did I think I would make a move over to, working on a film and, helping to do the raise and learning about all the back end stuff. I'm getting a front row seat to what goes on, but it's really exciting and a great team. So I'm excited about it.
That's awesome. We're definitely going to talk more about this. So I have some other questions before we do that.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is, tell us about something that you nerd out about.
Well, I had a really hard time with this one, because I am like, I love so many things. Like, I can't say that I nerd out on any one thing. I kind of like enjoy so much stuff. Right now I'm nerding out on feminism and equality. And, I'm reading, Ruth Bader Ginsburg's In Her Own Words. I'm reading Betty Friedan's The Feminine Mystique. Like, I'm just really trying to be as immersed into this like world of equality and understanding like where we stand and how much we have to go. And so that's kind of taking a priority. And I'm blurring the lines between work and my real life. But the last time I really nerded out was Game of Thrones. And I was late to the party. I have friends who like get dressed up and they go to watch Star Wars and they're like all into that stuff. And I'm just not usually. And so they would make fun of me. And then a friend of mine came to visit and she's like, "Oh, you have not watched Game of Thrones? We're watching it together." And so I got into it and I got really into it. I think I watched Game of Thrones the series like 3 times before the last season came out.
Wow. It's a lot of hours of television.
It is a lot of hours of television, but I would just go. Like, I would just go and like, it was a weekend and I wanted to just be introvert because I like living in New York City. Sometimes you just need to like stay in, especially if it was like crappy out or really cold. And you could get a lot done in that time, which is kind of sad, but it is my reality. So that said, to the point, we had a full on like last season trivia. Like, we had to like guess who died, who killed the Snow King, like who was king, like all these questions. And it's so crazy how much you forget. And it's been such a limited amount of time, but I feel like so much has happened since the season finale.
Yes.
But I won like $350 too, because we all ponied up, which was like, they're like, how did you win? Yeah, it was a fun game. We watched together. I would make lemon cakes and like shepherd's pie. Like, we made like a good, like every Sunday we came over and a good group of my New York friends who are all no longer, except for one, still in New York.
Yeah, that's cool.
We do that. So yeah, I would say Game of Thrones is the last thing I like nerded out on.
It's funny because you're like, I don't really know what it's going to be. And then you're like, oh wait, we had like Game of Thrones night and had a betting pool around it. I would say that qualifies as nerding out on something.
My friends brought me to the dark side.
They did.
They did.
So now you're incorporating a Star Wars analogy in here.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're so into Star Wars, like to the point when they found out I had not seen like all of them. It was a forced watch where we sat down, but we omitted, I think, 4, 5, and no, wait, we omitted
1, 2, and 3 probably.
yes, but
Yeah.
they were filmed 4, 5, 6.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, so we omitted them. But yes, my two of my best friends and their daughter is like my daughter. She's not like my daughter, but she's like my niece. She is my niece. I'm Auntie Kate, or Aunt Katie rather. She was born on Star Wars Day, and her middle name
Nice.
is Violet Storm. So yeah, after Storm.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
yes.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, it was also a stormy day when she was born, but yeah, there is an ode and a nod to the Star Wars.
I love that. I love that.
Anyway, yeah, she just celebrated her 5th birthday, which, gosh,
nice.
Those kids just grow so quick.
They do. They do.
Yeah,
I know a thing or two about that.
I know you guys do.
Oh, right. I have so many Game of Thrones questions. I'm actually not going to ask you because I feel like we could spend a lot of time on it, and you would probably also make me look bad by knowing more than I do. Although I watched the whole thing, but
you forget though. You forget who's who. You know, like you're like, wait, who was that character? Like the guy who, a lot of people don't realize this, but like, or put it together, the guy who's in The Mandalorian, who plays the Mandalorian. Now, I have not seen The Mandalorian. He's the snake guy, Prince, the one who gets. Yes, they're the same person. Dorn. And a lot of people don't put that together. I'm like, oh yeah, I love that actor. I think Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal, yeah. Well, the whole, but the thing that's funny about that, and we'll move on because we could talk about this forever, is that you haven't seen The Mandalorian. One of the key components of the Mandalorian lore is that Mandalorians never take their helmet off. So he never takes it off except for like 1 minute of one episode.
Yeah.
But you can hear his voice. You can tell it's him.
Yeah. I should watch that show. I will eventually.
It's fantastic. Even if you don't love Star Wars, it's like a amazing Western. And I think it's got a $15 million per episode budget. I mean, the production values are like Game of Thrones style. It's spectacular.
Yeah.
It's as good as anything you'd see in the theater or on streaming. My just last thing on Mandalorian, I introduced my 5-year-old daughter to it, and she loves it. Loves it.
Stuff. Yeah.
Which also says a lot about my parenting.
It doesn't say it says you're making quality time with your daughter.
Quality time. Yeah, we're watching quality time. I mean, and also baby Yoda, the child, like what kid is not going to like that little creature?
That creature is adorable. Friends of mine, their 2-year-old was Baby Yoda for Halloween, and
yeah, of course,
it was probably one. I mean, he definitely won all the prizes.
Yeah, I am not surprised. All right, so Kate, what's something that's inside of your comfort zone that might be outside of somebody else's?
I would say I feel comfortable speaking in public or getting in front of a room or presenting. I just kind of have that extrovert energy that I've never been shy from that. Like even in college, like I'd be the one doing the presentation and everybody else would be building the PowerPoint, like that's kind of my,
you and I are still the same person around that.
Yeah. So, and I just was like, all right, cool, let's do this. And I also I didn't realize it, but in my job, like I'm meeting with like CEOs and like high level people, and I don't get nervous. And I was, staying with friends, and I'd come downstairs and I'd had a huge meeting with like, a big music conglomerate, and 2 CEOs were on it. And it was just like high level people. My friend's like, do you get nervous? And I was like, I should, but I don't. So I think that's something that and it could also be like Zoom just creates this, false sense of security. Everybody's sitting in their like room or whatever, and you're just like being yourself. But yeah, I'm grateful that I kind of can turn it on, and some people are like, I could never do that. I could never do that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What about the reverse of it, Kate? So something that is outside of your comfort zone, it's likely going to be inside of somebody else's.
Yeah, I thought so. To give that, that one's a tough one for me. Because I don't know. I mean, I just, like accounting people or like people that spend their days like dealing with numbers or money or like, it just, my brain wants to turn off like that. And that truly is like, I had my own agency. Well, I didn't have my own agency. I consulted, and it got to the point where I was so busy that I either had to like man up and like start my own business or kind of let it go and go back to corporate. And I chose the latter because I was like, I hate finance. I hate billing. I hate accounts receivable. I hate doing expenses. All of those things. Like I want to be the one doing the presentation and like talking about how great we are. And like somebody else can do all the other things. So those who do those things, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm just not, I don't like doing that at all. It makes me like, there's serious, I don't like it. I don't like it. So thank you to those who do all the financials and all that stuff. I just don't enjoy it.
You and I are like the exact same person around this question. I'm like the person I'm like, I don't like writing and I don't like putting together PowerPoints. I'm like, hey, can somebody do that and I'll deliver it? And I also I run my own business. So I like the numbers in terms of like, I like making money. I like having that come in, but then the details of what you do with it after that, I'm like, just no, like, I just know. Accountant, tell me what you need for my taxes and I'm going to send it to you. And I don't want to even think about it. They'll be like, well, do you want this to be like, I don't care. I'm like, I care because it's money, but I'm like, I don't want to get involved in the details of this. I want you to tell me what you need and I want to send it to you exactly that way and be done with it.
I'm so to the point. I haven't done my taxes yet. Like you just reminded me. I keep making the mental note to call my accountant, and he knows I'm going to call him like May 14th or something.
You're the person that like, you're the person that accountants are like, that Kate is going to make me work over the weekend. Like,
I know it's coming. And he sent me like 2 emails, like, come on, Kate, just get me your stuff. I'm like,
exactly.
Anyway, I'm just procrastinator in that world. But like, and I don't mind doing PowerPoints. I do like, I've come to, working in agency world and in sales, which is like what I effectively do. Like, you have to just get to a point where you're like, okay, I don't like building them per se.
Yeah. Right.
But once the template's there and it's ready to roll, I got it. Like, I don't want to go back and forth with some creative person who's going to take 15 hours to put in like some copy. I'm like, I can do that. Like, but I don't want to build them. You do that.
I'm in the exact same place as you.
Yeah.
So you and I should probably never be on some sort of business partnership where we're the only 2 people, because we'd be like fighting over all the things that we find are fun and be like, oh, and by the way, who's paying for all this? We're like, oh yeah, we should probably know about that.
We should get somebody to do that for us then.
Yeah, we should probably hire somebody, Kate.
Yeah, we should hire someone because I'm not doing it. Yeah.
Some details that might seem, we may have missed some details here, but it's going to be a lot of fun and it's going to look good. And people are going to be blown away by the pitch. And then they're going to go like, so can you send us the numbers? And we're like, oh, wait, numbers, right.
Hold on. We're going to get you that. It's coming.
That's awesome.
But yeah, no. And like, it's great. I mean, my boss now, he's just so thorough in everything he does that it's so just perfect. Great. People like that. And like, I mean, I'm just like off the cuff, like, let's just go. Like, and he's like, we need our strategy and deal points and all these things. And I'm like, okay, I'll fill in the dots, like, but anyway, I there's a little too much, just go with it kind of attitude in my life. You need that balance. So I'm glad that I have that in my job.
Yeah, exactly. So we're talking about speaking, and let's pretend for a moment that I have the power to give you a platform to deliver a 5-minute speech, and everybody in the world gets to hear Kate's message. What is it that you would talk about, and what would you want us as the audience to do? In other words, what is your call to action?
Oh, well, you're going to I have to go with what I'm working on right now, which is crazy because, I'm working on this, film about this amazing woman, and it's about gender equity. And this is what I say to people, like, either you're a woman or you came out of a woman. Like, this is like, there's like 1 degree. So this is something that definitely affects, the entire population of the world. But, I
By the
feel
way,
like climate.
Kate, I have to correct you on one thing. It's not an
What?
or. We all came out of a woman.
Oh, right. We all did come. Right.
Because
Right.
you're
Right.
like, either you're a woman or you came out of a woman. I'm like, I think all women also came out of
We
women.
all came out, but I'm just saying, either you're personally a woman, or if
Yeah.
you're not a woman, you came out of one. That's where I'm
Yeah.
kind of trying to go with that. But I think climate, like, there's so many issues out there that are so pressing right now. I mean, clearly, like, the world is like literally on fire, and we're dealing with it. But speaking to what I know and where I found my purpose is really focused on women and getting a fair share. It is remarkable how, I mean, just how we've never had a woman president. Like, there's just so many things, but it's just like I like to say this is that, nobody on this great, like, good earth created the patriarchy. It was built, it was created, it was here long before we were here. Now it's on us to dismantle it, because it works for a very small group in terms of the world. And I just, in terms of what we're doing with our campaign, and our mission is to make the workplace more equal, fair, and safe for women. And we want to do that by galvanizing for-profits, nonprofits, and individuals to declare, demand, and do. And essentially, declaring is saying, yes, it's like being accountable. We see the problem. We know there's a problem. Demanding is saying we want to fix it. And then it's on you to do what you need to do. If you're a CEO, apply pay transparency. Like, there's a lot of things you can do. If you're an everyday person, well, donate, dresses, or, donate clothing to the local shelter. I mean, there's so many ways that people can contribute and help. And I think that, the world will be a better place when more women are in power. I think looking at the response to COVID, and the jury's still out, we don't know what was better, because there's not enough, time between now and then, but they do say female leaders had better responses, and they just led, I think, with a more empathetic lens than male leaders. I'm not taking away from males. I'm not here to bash males. This is a group problem, and so many men have daughters or are married to, like, this is a group problem. But yeah, that would be if I had that soapbox, I would speak to that and hope that people, understand that this isn't a red or a blue issue. This is a human issue. And if we can all work together, we can make systemic change. And that's the platform I'm standing on right now. So thanks for giving me that.
Yeah. Well, also, if only there was like a creative project that would further this message in the world.
Yeah, if
I'm
only.
trying to think what that would be like. And perhaps we have some ideas that we'll share after the very brief commercial break we're going to go on right now. We'll be back right after this.
The Talking to Cool People podcast is brought to you by Jason Frizzell Coaching. Jason works with amazing people who are looking to find and develop their passion and purpose and create their journey to wherever it is they want to go. Check us out at jasonfrizzell.com, Facebook, or on Instagram. Jason loves hearing from anyone who thinks it would be cool to connect, to be coached, or to be a guest on our show. Email him at podcast@jasonfrizzell.com or DM him on Facebook and Instagram. And now, back to some more amazing conversation on Talking to Cool People.
All right, Kate, and we are back. So I have a very, very, very open question for you. Mm-hmm. And based on what you shared about yourself earlier, I think this will actually be in your wheelhouse to figure something out. What do you want the audience to know about you?
Anything I do comes out of wanting to do good. I mean, I really, that sounds so cheesy. But I really I think, like, if I do bad, like, I'll be judged, or like if I have a bad thought, or if I, I really try to be a good person. I mean, I just don't be an asshole. I think that should be the cardinal rule in life. And I really try, like, and if I, you'll falter, you'll annoy people, like, of course, like, that's just human nature. It's not everybody's going to like you, but I do come from a place of like a good heart. Like that's my thing. I mean, I don't wish ill on anybody. I definitely have had, people that have come and gone in my life, and I'm happy to see them gone. But I look at everything as a learning experience, and everything that I have encountered has brought me to where I am now, and I'm grateful for it. Whether it was good or bad, it taught me something. So, but yeah, I just, I want to leave the world better than I found it kind of person.
Yeah. So you're a do-gooder, but in the good way, not in the way that sometimes that's used.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm not out there like, rah, rah, like, I kind of am because of my job, and I never sought this job out. Like, like it's very weird that here I am, doing this, but it was really something that was presented to me, but I'm grateful. Like I've always said, when people have asked me what my dream job is, I want to be a philanthropist. Because I'll have bucks deluxe. I'll be rich, which is important. But then I just give my money away to good things. Like that to me is like the best thing ever. Like I hope one day I can say I am a philanthropist, and not like just say I'm a philanthropist, like be a bucks deluxe philanthropist.
Yeah. Like making like money that makes a difference. Not like I'm a philanthropist, and then like I give like $50 a year. So I mean, every bit helps, of course, but I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah. Like fuck you, money. But I mean, I don't want that much money. Like even if I had all that much money, like in my past, I was the contractor on Louis XIII cognac, which if you don't know what that is for the audience, it's a spirit that, due to its heritage, history, alchemy, legacy, all of the things, it sells for a very high price point. But the actual elixir itself, and I have to give this speech because I don't want to, dissuade people from it's a very incredible brand. But it retails for anywhere from $3,500 to $30,000 a bottle, depending on what you're getting. And I say, as a marketer on the product, I said, we cater to the 0.1%. And those are people, but it's just that level of money. It just is unnecessary to me. Like I would go into houses, and turn them into the Louis mansion. And like, I lived in Bel Air for a month. I lived in the Hills for a month. I lived in Miami for a month. I lived in Dallas for a month. And I would get these crazy houses. And this one house in Bel Air, I mean, it had 3 elevators, an indoor outdoor pool, a bowling alley, a theater. I mean, it was just unnecessary, like absolutely
3
unnecessary.
elevators per
Like,
house.
yeah, like it just was like, and I just was like, even if I had this level of money, I wouldn't live in a house like this, like it just is like, it's not necessary. I don't, so anyway, there's my spiel about being a philanthropist. I mean, I want money, but like, I'd love to just give it away.
I have to ask you, Kate, did you sneak in a Billions reference there a little bit ago?
Did I? I don't know.
You watch Billions?
I do. I don't think I snuck it in, but if I did, yeah, maybe.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't, because I watched it but it was a while ago.
Yeah, so I think it's the first season or maybe the second. Damian Lewis's character, is obviously he's the lead character for those who don't watch, and he's a hedge fund guy. He's like
he's quite Westport, Connecticut, which is where I grew up.
Right. He's quite the asshole. He has one of his best quotes is like, "What's the point of having fuck you money if you can't say fuck you?"
There you go.
I'm like, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. I don't want to be like, who knows? I mean, just for, you just, shit costs money, man.
I think that's the quote of the episode. Shit, Kate Kelley, shit costs money, man.
It does. Right. So it's like, you want it, but you also don't, like there doesn't need to be a level, but who knows? I mean, hopefully this film will do really well and I'll have some fuck you money. I don't think that's the place I'll be in terms of how I'm associated, but who knows?
That's a very admirable. I'm making a film so that I can have fuck you money.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
I know you're not.
This film is like the antithesis of making. It's like an independent flick. No,
Exactly.
this is not meant to be the next Marvel Comics 300 million at the box office.
You're like this. Wait, this movie you're making, it's a trilogy, right? And each episode is going to be 3 hours long.
Exactly.
Released 2 years apart, like Star Wars, and like each time it's going to be $1 million thing.
Yeah, I think that would be a good, I think people would want to watch a film. I mean, that's the thing. Making this film has been challenging because it's written and will be directed by a woman over 60 or over 50. Mm-hmm. It stars a woman, Patricia Clarkson is playing our Lily, which I have to plug in and be so excited about because
of course.
She's amazing. And she's so dynamic and she's so well trained and she's from the South and she's from a political family. Her mother was a New Orleans congresswoman. And she had to put the phone down and cried when she found out that Patricia was playing the role of Lily. So
wow,
that's exciting. Awesome. But anyway, the film, it's not there's no tits and ass. There's no crazy thriller. I mean, there is a car chase scene, but it sits in this weird world where our budget is enough that it's not a small independent. It's got a little budget to it, but I think it's along the lines of what we said a Mandalorian one episode is, it's not, but you're not going to attract the big Hollywood investors who are in this to make money and to get a 300 million at the box office. Those people are investing money to get a serious return on their investment. Then you've got the small people, not the small, rather the people who are investing in independent films, and our budget is 15 million, which isn't a small independent budget. So we sit in this weird world, but we've gotten close to $1 million in donations from people who want this film to be made, which helps us from a producer standpoint because that money does not need to be paid back. So there's a difference between investing and donating. But we have a 501c3 attached to the film, so we have people who are like, I just want to see this film get made. Here you go. But in terms of the traditional Hollywood institution, we're kind of bucking around them. And we have a lot of investors in the film. But that's just what we had to do to get it done. And we are not quite there. We're almost there. We hope to greenlight in June, but we're on track too. And then the shooting will begin in the fall, with hopes to be out on the film festival circuit 2022, which is all very, very exciting.
Very cool. Well, congratulations on getting it this far. And I have no doubt that you get this film made, and I can't wait to see it. I told my wife about it without spilling the deets, and she was like, yeah, I would definitely want to see that.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is Lily herself, she's alive, and one of our biggest objectives with the film and for the social impact campaign is this is inspired by Lily, but this is for all women, specifically marginalized women who, are adversely affected by the pay gap. Women, white women are 80 cents, and then it goes down from there based on your race. And so we want Lily to be our inspiration. But she's such a spitfire. I mean, this woman, you have to think about her life in that, she was 60 when she found this out. So she was over 60 years old when she was like, yeah, I'll take on this lawsuit, which was crazy. And, she won the first round and they awarded her like $3.2 million. She never saw a cent.
Back wages, lost wages.
Yeah. Damages was a lot of it. But anyway, so she, and then when she lost at the Supreme Court level, they didn't get a cent, and neither did her lawyer. And he is very, very, very involved in the story. His name is John Goldbarb, and he took on her case. He was like, listen, we'll do this. I'll take this on. And I mean, 9 years that case lasted. But beyond the whole, her doing this and her doing this for her daughter and her granddaughter, what I love about Lily's story is her love story with her husband. I mean, she was from this small town, Possum Trot, Alabama. She was picking cotton as a young child. I mean, she grew up in poverty. And then she, so when she got married, I think she just turned 18 when she got married. I'm married, a town boy, Charles. And, he didn't want her to work, but she was like, I need to work. Like, if we want to get to a place where I want my children to be. And again, she had no running water in her house when she was born. It required, a dual income. And I think so many people in this world rely on a dual income, to have the things that you want in life. I mean, again, money is necessary. So that said, he was reticent, but then he embraced it, and he didn't get to see the bill signed. He developed cancer towards the end. And it's really sad, because there's a book. The book is called Grace and Grit, which is what the film is based on it. And I bawled my eyes out when I read the scene, but she left to go to DC because something important was happening, and she had to give a speech or something like that. And she left, and she came back like the same night, and she came home, and he had passed away, and so he never got to see. Yeah, at home. Like she found him on the floor in their house, which is just so sad, because, but he loved her and supported her. And like, when she told him she wanted to sue, he was like, where should I drive you? Like, there was a level of a support and understanding, which I think is so present in the male generation of today in terms of collaborating and helping. And, but this was, and it wasn't so long ago. I mean, this was like the late 90s, but I think the dynamic has shifted in terms of what in partnerships nowadays versus partnerships before. But he was very good to her, and they did have an incredible love story. So it's about that too. I mean, she's a dynamic woman, but she goes around, she speaks, she's got this crazy Southern accent. She's wonderful. I'm excited, but she's the inspiration, but the campaign is for all women.
Yeah. I looked up, for the episode, I looked her up. Patricia Clarkson is perfect for her.
Totally. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. You're like, that is not a stretch in a good way. You're like, that makes a lot of sense. Why Patricia Clarkson would be playing.
And not to cut you off, but Patricia Clarkson, she has played so many roles. I mean, she started in, The Untouchables, Shutter Island. Obviously, she just did Sharp Objects, where she won an Emmy.
Did she win an Emmy? I can't remember.
I think she won an Emmy and a Golden Globe. And she's Academy. Yeah, I mean, she's won BAFTAs. I don't want to say she did Elephant Man on Broadway. I think she was Tony nominated for that. She's amazing. I mean, she went to Yale. She's incredible. But what I wanted to say, because I was cutting you off, she's 61, and this is her first marquee role, like first big starring role at 61. So to have that as another kind of like part of this puzzle that we're putting together in terms of like giving opportunity to women, that is very excited. And we looked for an older woman. We could have cast a younger woman, because we do have to age her up and age her down. It takes place over, I think, about 20 years. But yeah, so Patricia Clarkson, 61, getting her first, and she's obviously had other starring roles, but this is her role to play. And we say her Oscar to loot. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. You're declaring it right here on the show today.
I hope so. No pressure, Patricia. No pressure.
It's all good, Patricia. You're good.
She's but yeah, what a great
that's awesome.
We're excited.
Yeah. Well, this is a part of the show where you get to ask me something, Kate. And you don't really know me either. So what do you want to know about me?
Well, I want to talk about Sunny, because I too have a dog that I rescued in COVID, and I have the best dog story I think that you will hear for a while about my rescue. But I want to hear about how you got Sunny. And I also want to hear what compelled you to start your own podcast.
So the story of Sunny Rain, and Kate is specifically, so Kate, we don't really know each other. Well, we're getting to know each other. and we're finding out we're very similar.
We are.
The reason that Kate knows about Sunny is because one of my previous podcast guests, Lauren, I'm friends with Lauren, and we're friends on Instagram, and Sunny has her own Instagram page as well. So that's why you know about Sunny Rain. And Sunny Rain came about because my wife and I, we had a French bulldog. And I don't remember if I told you this when we met, but we had a French bulldog and she passed away last October. She passed away on her 12th birthday at home, which was sad and also like really amazing that we got to be with her when she passed away at home. We didn't have to like make a decision to put her to sleep or anything. And it was kind of sudden. Like she had cancer, but it wasn't like, we didn't wake up in the morning and be like, oh, she's on her last legs. And something happened that she kind of passed away suddenly. We don't know what it was. It doesn't really matter. And so I remember saying to my wife, I'm like, are we going to get another dog? And she's like, well, I'd like a break. And I'm like, yeah, we could use a break. And I remember saying, must have been like November. And I'm like, I want another dog. And she's like, oh, no, another dog. Cause we just had a baby, because it's crazy to have a dog and a puppy, or a puppy and a baby at the same time. And I'm like, yeah, but
is it though? They
it's not. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Kirsten. When you listen to this, Kate and I are on the same page. And so I'm like, she's like, well, we should get another French bulldog. I'm like, no. I'm like, I love French bulldogs. They're adorable. I love them. I would get another one, but I'm like, we're currently not living in New York City. We have a lot of area for a new dog. I said, I want a golden retriever. And she's like, why a golden retriever? I said, because we have a baby, and golden retrievers are arguably the best dog for babies. Like they're lovers. They're
so sweet. They're
so sweet. They're lovers. And I'm like, hey, should we get a rescue? And I love rescues. And at the same time, I'm like, the problem with a rescue when you have a family of 4, especially a newborn, is that you don't know what you're going to get. Like you just don't know, right? Like you also don't know the size, which becomes a significant challenge for us. I'm like, so for all those who only, advocate for rescues, like I love rescues. Sunny is, if you saw a picture of Sunny, she is certainly not a rescue. She's a purebred English cream golden retriever from a breeder. And so one day I come home and Kirsten's like, hey, I found a breeder and it's 120 miles or 150 miles from here. And I'm like, okay. And I looked and I saw the picture of the dogs. And I was like, wow, these are beautiful. So in English, for those who don't know what an English clean golden retriever is, it looks like it is a golden retriever. It's a plain old golden retriever, but she's almost white.
Yeah, they're so
the coloring in person is even more beautiful. It's not like brilliant white. It is like a cream color, but it's just really gorgeous. And I'm like, yes, let's get one of these. So we put down a deposit that night, and then we're like, okay, so when do we get this dog? And they're like, well, they're being born at the end of December. And so we got an email that, hey, the mom had the litter. Her mom's name is Franny, which I think is a very cute name for a golden retriever.
Yeah.
And then we got an email and they're like, okay, and then you can come get them. She's from Pennsylvania. And in Pennsylvania, I don't know if this is a state law everywhere, but in Pennsylvania, you cannot get a puppy before they're 8 weeks old, which I think is a great law.
Yeah.
They need to be with their mom. And so on Feb 26th, she was born December 26th, and Feb 26th, my daughter and I drove 150 miles each way and picked her up. And we walk into this place, and it was a very nice breeder. Like the people were nice. It's a family run. And when I tell you this, and I know you're a dog owner, there were probably 30 8-week-old golden retriever puppies sitting there inside this like really nice garage. Like they were all look super happy. The parents were there too. The parents look amazing. They're like show dogs. And I'm like, this is kind of like dog heaven. If you're a dog lover and you like cute puppies, this is kind of the place that you want to be. And the good news is they microchip them and they have yours picked out. So you don't have to make a choice. Cause I don't know how you would. How would you make a choice between 30 golden retriever puppies?
Sometimes like the dogs will come to you and it's like, oh, they choose you. But yeah.
But with 30, and I was like, oh my God.
Crazy. So there was like 4 litters were born or something?
Yeah, they had a bunch of litters at once for whatever reason. Because they own like 5 girls and 3 boys or something. But so we walk in and I'm with my daughter who's just turned 5 and she was like floored, right? Like imagine being 5 years old and walking in. So we have all these cute pictures. We have a cute video. And then they handed us Sunny and we'd already named her and we're on our way and brought her back, and the rest is history. So for anybody listening that likes cute dogs, it's Sunny Rain Pup is the Instagram handle. I'll actually throw it in the show notes. And that's that. And the last thing I'll say is my friend Ivy, I sent her the video and she's like, if I was going to die, I would want to die in the middle of that floor, like surrounded by these like puppies who are just, it's beyond adorable, Kate. Like the pictures are like, does it get any cuter than this? If you like dogs, like it probably doesn't get much cuter than this. So that's how we got Sunny. She's awesome. We got her at the end of February. It's now the early May. She has quadrupled in size.
Yeah. How big is she now?
I think she's probably about 30 pounds. I don't know. When we got her home, she was 7 pounds, and she's got to be at least 30 now. She basically looks like a miniature version of an adult golden retriever. And it is because we had our French bulldog, like those dogs just grow slower.
Tiny. Yeah.
They're tiny. Yeah. She was 20 pounds full grown. Like I had forgotten how quickly dogs grow. I'm like, she looks like a puppy, but she looks like an adult, looks like a miniature adult now. And when we got her, she was like a little baby puppy, and she doesn't look like a baby puppy. So that's Sunny Rain. She is as sweet as her pictures are. Her personality is phenomenal. She loves getting rough hugs from the 5-year-old. She loves the baby. They're all buddies. They're, they spend a lot of time in the yard together. She doesn't run, which is phenomenal. Like we trained her. She doesn't run out of the yard with no additional training. So we let her out. She does her thing. She's amazing. The only thing she does right now, because she's a golden, she loves water.
Yes.
So she loves mud. And I'm like, oh God. Cause she'll be like Sunny, and she'll come and she'll just be, the bottom row would just be absolutely coated in mud. Cause she's like playing in the water that is muddy. That's the only downside I've got for you. Other than, dogs are expensive and you can take them to the vet and all that stuff, but it's part of the deal.
It is part of the deal.
So, yeah. So that is the first part of my answer. So how did I start the podcast? I think you will appreciate this based on what we talked about how you like to do things. In October of 2019, I was on a podcast. It was my first time ever. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to start a podcast.
I'm just going to do it.
I'm like, I'm just going to start a podcast. And I'm like, oh, I should probably know how to start a podcast. I knew nothing about it. So I'm like, I Googled, like, how do you start a podcast, and found out there's these podcasting hosting platforms, which are super easy to use. And I'm a technical person. So I'm like, oh, this is easy. So I recorded 7 episodes, and I didn't know what it was called. I didn't know what the artwork was going to look like. I didn't really know anything about it other than I was going to ask people questions that are still pretty much the same questions I asked now 80 some episodes later. And one of my guests, I was talking to her, she's hilarious, very creative. And I'm like, hey, what would you call this? And she's like, yeah, it's easy. Like talking to cool people. And I'm like, yeah, that's it.
Ding, ding, ding.
And I was like, yeah, that's it. Cause I had somebody else.
I don't need to go through a whole branding exercise. We got it.
Branding exercise. And I was like, who's your target market? And all that, like, sure, you can do all that. And like, what's the impact you want to make? And how are you going to grow it? And I'm like, yeah, I just want to do it. Sounds fun. I got to know. I'm like, hey, I don't know if 5 people are going to listen to it or 5,000. Like, doesn't really matter to me. No. Is this going to replace my income? No. Am I doing it for money? No. I'm just doing it because this is something that I love doing. And so the rest is history. So here we are, almost a year and a half later. I've released 79 episodes. And I've recorded another, I think I was telling you this, I've recorded another like 13 or 14. You'll be in my 15th episode that I haven't released yet. And my guest list is through the roof. I have an endless supply of guests at this point. I think mostly just because it's consistent. Because there's so many podcasts that are like, I'm doing a podcast. And then 5 episodes later, they're like, never do anything with it again. And it just sits there.
Yep.
Yeah, it's probably a lot like film and television. Like there's all these ideas that don't come to fruition. Like this is something that I actually am wildly consistent about. Comes out usually every Wednesday, and unless I'm doing something special, and I'm keeping it going. There's no reason not to. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. So that's the story of the podcast.
I love it.
And here we are.
All
right, Kate. Well, do you have any other things I can answer for you before we move along?
No, I love the dog conversation. And it is funny that you bring up like rescue because I rescued. And, to be completely honest, it's a crapshoot either way. I mean, like you could have a dog that comes from, and they've got issues or problems or bite or whatever. I mean, it's kind of like
Totally.
anything is a risk. But I rescued my dog is Stevie Nicks Wonderful.
Who did you name
And
her after? I'm just curious. I'm
I don't
not
know.
clear.
Well, Fleetwood Mac was playing when I walked into my apartment because so her backstory is going into COVID. I'm single. I'm just getting fired. COVID's happening, and I'm in my apartment in New York City, and lockdown is happening, and it is scary. I mean, it was scary. I lived between Broadway and Amsterdam, and it was basically a throughway to the hospital. So all you were hearing is just this deafening silence and siren after siren after siren. And then you've got like, Trumpy Bear on the thing and just all the, and then Cuomo's coming on. I mean, it just was like, and you're just watching the news because there's nothing else you could do.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not doing this by myself. And I had a really hard time finding a dog because you couldn't go anywhere, and they do adoption fairs, and that's how you rescue dogs. It's kind of, or you go to the locations, and you couldn't do that. So I reached out to a friend, and I was like, he always invites me to like fundraisers. He'll know the people for so anyway, he connected me with this incredible rescue, Animal Lighthouse Rescue, which is based out in New York. And they predominantly rescue dogs from Puerto Rico. And there was this dog on their website, and she was 12 pounds. She looked like a miniature golden retriever. I mean, the dark hair, and she's so sweet, and she didn't bark. She just likes, and so I was like, all right, there she is. I can handle this, because it was like, I was afraid, getting a dog for the first time, you want to make certain that you're making the right decision. And, so anyway, long story short, she had health issues, and they didn't feel comfortable giving her to me. So they sent me a picture of Stevie with her brother, who had been found on a dump in Puerto Rico. And like, they just look like mangy mutts. And they're like, how about this one? Do you like her? And I'm like, well, how big is she? Like, what's her temperament like? Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, she's on a plane. Do you want her? And I'm like, I got to be honest with you. Like, I think I want her, but this is a big step for me. Can I foster to, figure it out? And then, so like on Saturday at 8 p.m. on March, I think 27th, whatever, during the lockdown, they literally handed her to me in the stairwell, and it was just love at first sight.
Yeah.
And she just curled right up, and there was no giving her back. And I walked into my apartment, and again, Fleetwood Mac was playing. And so that's where her name came from. But Stevie is just the sweetest. I mean, she's so good she stays in the yard too. My friend just had a baby. I was staying with them in Raleigh to help because she has two other ones, good with kids. But the best part about Stevie's story is last year, as I started my nomad trip after I got Stevie, I went and stayed with my sister in Boston, and she had independently wanted a dog. And Stevie was found with her brother, and he had heartworms. And so my sister was like, I want a dog. And I was like, well, let's reach back out to Animal Lighthouse and see what's going on with him. And so Pedro, as he was referred to, was the king of the castle at the place. Everybody loved him. Actually, people had wanted to adopt him, and they were like, well, if we can keep them together, you're going to get priority. So May 26th, after his heartworm treatment was done, my sister adopted Pablo, who is now Seamus. So Seamus and Stevie, like if I say Seamus, she's like, where is he? Get to see one another. They're reunited. They have an Instagram, Adventures of Stevie and Seamus, and they are the sweetest dogs. And it's just so funny because we reunited those two pups, and they recognized each other at the airport, and they got all excited. So they're ham, and we both got COVID rescues, but we're very grateful for them.
That's awesome. Dogs are the best. Dogs are amazing.
Yeah.
I grew up with a dog. My wife grew up with a dog. We had our French bulldog. It was our starter. We called her our starter kid.
Yeah,
we had
totally.
her beforehand. Yeah.
That's that
awesome.
was the weirdest thing. When I got Stevie, I'm like, I've never had to actually take care of something other than myself ever. which is like kind of a weird like thought to have in your late 30s, where you're like, oh well, yeah, am I selfish? I don't know, but like to actually really put something like, obviously, I don't mean to be, but it was just very weird to be like, okay, this dog takes priority.
That's a very Carrie Bradshaw thing to say.
Well, I try.
Yeah, very Candice Bushnell. All right, Kate, what's the thing you're most proud of?
I would say my relationships, my friendships, my family, like you're nothing in life without the people you're around. And those are the most important things, but just, maintaining, like I'm still very close with a lot of my high school friends and college friends, and my work, it's just, I turned 40 in August, and obviously my COVID birthday sucked. Well, it didn't suck. It was actually quite nice, but my sister made a video and she reached out to, and I had like over like 50 people send videos in. And I don't say this to like brag or anything, but it just was like so amazing to see so many people like that had touched my life or had been involved in my life in a different way, and like be able to succinctly see it all in one. So I don't have children yet, and I'd love to have them if that's going to be a reality for me. I'm not sure if that will be, but so for now I'm proud of my friendships and my relationships.
Nice. Anybody you want to specifically give a shout out to?
My parents. I'm one of 6 kids. They worked hard to give us a very good life, and
nice.
Obviously I'm back home with my dad who has Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. So it's fleeting. But very great. He's a very good man. So he does it. It's funny. It's not funny, but like I'll give you just one anecdote about my experience thus far. I came home on Monday morning because I spent the night at a cousin's because I had to whatever. So anyway, long story short, I pull in the driveway and my dad's sitting on a bench in our yard, and he's got this grin on his face, and I'm like, oh, he recognizes me, and I'm like, oh, hey Dad, and I'm like, where's Mom? The car's gone. She doesn't really leave him. And he's like, I opened the pool this morning. I was like, what'd you do, Dad? He's like, well, yeah. He's like, it feels nice out, so let's get that pool going. And it's like, it's May 1st or May 3rd in Cape Cod. Like you don't open your pool right now. Like that's not what you do. But he was just so proud of himself. And like my mom was like, had left because apparently there's this chlorine shortage. And like we ended up actually closing the pool again. But anyway, she'd gone to corner of the market and chlorine tablets because I guess like a factory blew up. So like
really?
she was, yes, this is a real thing that happened. And I'm like, so anyway, so she's cornered the market in Clorox chlorine tablets. So when we are ready to do it, but it's funny, like just seeing their dynamic, but they just celebrated 50 years of marriage in April, 6 kids. And they're just, they're good people, and I'm grateful, everybody's human, but there's no lack of, love.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what's something that you're afraid might actually be true about you, other than you hate numbers? Because I think you're probably not afraid that that's true about you. You know that it's true about you.
Yeah. What am I? That's a hard question because it's really like you've got to self-evaluate. And I could give you like, that question to me is like, it's a hard one. Like something that I fear is true.
Just to be clear, Kate, the show is just not all puppies and talking about.
I know you're making me self-reflect and dig
I know.
deep.
I'm so sorry that I had to do that to you. I was recording another episode where I said this is the part of the show that's pseudo therapy, pseudo coaching, without me actually doing any of those things. So it's not unethical.
I would say, it's funny. I'm at this place in my life where I'd lived in New York City for 15 years. and I love the New York life, and I miss my apartment terribly, but I'm afraid, I don't know if I'm cut out for it to go back. Like, I haven't made the move, and I don't know if that's like, do I want to keep my toe there? Do I want to go elsewhere? Like, I am in such a, but maybe I'm just not cut out for the New York life. I mean, I did it for 15 years and I excelled at it, let me tell you. But like, I'm kind of in this where, am I cut out for that still? I don't know. I'm not cut out for the rat race and getting on the subway every day and doing what I was doing before. But I don't know what it is. I'm afraid, I'm like in this, like, and I'm also like, I'm not thinking about that until the end of the summer. I kind of have this like buffer to kind of like decide, but I have no idea what I want to do. And people keep asking me, where are you going to live? Are you coming back to New York? Like, what's going on? Are you coming back to New York? And I just don't have an answer to it. But after experiencing space and walks and all the things that you're gifted, or I've been gifted in this, I don't know if I'm cut out for New York anymore. And this is coming from like somebody who like was proud of being a New Yorker, like I got my, I had my last apartment for 10 years. And so, yeah, I wonder, I don't know what the answer to the question is, if I am cut out for it, or if I'll, kind of dip my toe. I mean, ideally, I'd love to be bi-coastal, just so I could say I'm bi-coastal.
You know what allows you to be bi-coastal?
What?
Fuck you money.
Fuck you money, exactly. It always comes back to the fuck you money. So yeah, everybody go see Lilly and no, I'm kidding.
Everybody see it, buy multiple tickets for it.
Yeah.
Get Kate a place in San Diego or LA and a place in New York, and you're good.
Yeah.
Or wherever it is.
Yeah.
There
back and forth. I was all excited because Stevie was 20 pounds. So I was like, oh, I can bring her on flights and have no problem.
Flights.
She gained COVID weight too.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
She's 25 pounds, but I got her and she was like literally a street dog. So she deserves the best. She does. She deserves a life. She eats rotisserie chicken. That's all she'll eat. For a freaking street dog, I don't know.
She's got some good taste.
She
rotisserie
does.
chicken's amazing.
Yeah, she's a little diva, but she deserves it.
Yeah, there you go. All right, we're going to wrap it up here in a couple minutes. And I have two more questions for you and one more request. So I'm going to start with the questions.
Okay.
So Kate, how do you see the world?
Oh, I do see it through rosy glasses. I just want to see the good. But I also like understand there's bad, but I try to see the good in every situation, and to, build on that. But yeah, I definitely, I'm a glass half full kind of gal.
That answer does not surprise me at all.
Mm-hmm.
Even so, let me challenge you a little bit. What if I told you you had to get your taxes to your accountant by 5:00 today? How would you see the good in that?
I'd be like, oh, all right, that forced me to do it. And it's done.
I guess the one good thing is it would be done.
It'd be done. Yeah. All right. This was the forced, like, it's just, that's how I would look at it. You just try to see I try to see the good in everyone and in every situation. And not all things are good, but, that's how I try to live my life,
Nice. All right. So everything we're about to talk about is going to go in the show notes. And the question is usually, how can we find you? But I think the other question is, how can we learn more about the film?
Okay. You can learn more about the film at lillymovie.com. Lilly spelled with 2 L's. So Lilly movie.com. And me, I love the number 12. So Kate Kelley 12 is where you can find me on Instagram, and then Kate Kelley on LinkedIn, all the things.
What is it about number 12? Are you a Tom Brady fan or something?
Well, yes, but that came after my love for 12. I was born on the 12th.
Oh, you were?
I was born on the 12th. I am a Tom Brady fan. Let me just tell you.
You are KK12. Let's be clear. You got TB12 and KK12.
Exactly. And Tom Brady, I mean, that's just like excellence personified. I mean, I know how many people hate to hate him, but now like he's gone to the Bucks and people are like, now I can root for him. But really watching him, it's kind of crazy. Yeah. That's what it was like to be a Patriots fan for 20 years, you know, like the man is truly like, yeah. But so I was excited when he had the same number I had, but that was my like number in like for soccer and stuff was 12.
Yeah. Yeah, two of the greatest athletes ever to play in the Boston area.
I mean,
I understand.
Yeah,
I get you.
I mean, my soccer team did win states when I sat on the bench as a freshman, but I was on the varsity team.
That's not the way you tell a good story.
It's true. Hey, I was there in moral support. I mean, at least I was on the varsity team. That team was insane. It was all juniors and seniors who were on the field, but I got to learn a lot.
Can I give you a little storytelling tip that you just did? The story is I was number 12 on my soccer team and we won the state championship. End of story.
Yeah, it's true, but
nobody needs to know that maybe you weren't out there every minute of every game. It does that part doesn't matter. You were there.
I know. I was there. I got the jacket.
Have you learned nothing from politics, that it doesn't really matter about the details? I
know. Well, yeah. Yeah. I just don't want to be that person where if like somebody's listening, they're like, she wasn't even on the field.
I would laugh so hard if somebody listened to this podcast and like attacked you because you didn't factually tell like your high school soccer team. I'd be like, that person needs something else to do with their time.
They do. They do. Yeah. So those are the places you can find me.
Nice.
And gallivanting around the Cape for the summer.
For the summer. In the pool when it's open again.
In the pool when it's open. Yes, exactly.
All right, Kate, well, it has been a blast getting to know you. And as I always like to do with all my guests, words of wisdom. So what do you got for us?
Let it all happen. Let it all happen. That is my mantra in life. The good, the bad, the ugly. It all happens for a reason. Pay attention. And the bad will turn into good and the good will turn into bad, but you got to let it all happen.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kate. Best of luck as you move from pre-production into production, into post-production.
Thank you.
Please, my invitation to you is to have you back on when you're ready to talk more about like the process. I'd love to hear how the process was for you, since it's the first time for you doing this. I'd love to hear about the process, hear about the film, all that good stuff. So it'd be really fun to have you back.
Love that all. And hopefully, a year from now, we'll be, going to Cannes or something like that to premiere the film. I mean, a girl can hope, but that could happen. So
TV12 can go to Tampa and win a Super Bowl. KK12 can do anything.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you so much, Kate.
Bye. It's good to see you. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you too. Goodbye.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Talking to Cool People with Jason Frizzell. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell your friends. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook and give us a shout out, or take a moment to leave a review on iTunes. If something from today's episode piqued your interest and you'd like to connect, email us at podcast@jasonfrizzell.com. We love hearing from our listeners because you're cool people too.